Hello and welcome. I'm Filmon and you are watching TCB News. I am here to present the latest news updates. Stay with us. Tensions in the Middle East have escalated once again after the United States launched military strikes against Iranian targets, accusing Tehran of violating a recently agreed ceasefire. According to U.S. Central Command, American forces targeted Iranian missile and drone storage facilities along with coastal radar positions following a drone attack on a commercial cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz. The vessel, the Singapore-flagged Ever Lovely, was struck while sailing along a route recommended by international maritime authorities. The ship suffered only limited damage and all crew members are reported safe. The attack forced the United Nations International Maritime Organization to suspend its planned evacuation of more than 11,000 soldiers stranded in the region since fighting erupted earlier this year. President Donald Trump condemned the incident, calling it a foolish violation of the ceasefire agreement. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said Iran launched multiple drones at commercial vessels, warning that attacks on international shipping would not be tolerated. Iran rejected the accusations, saying the cargo ship was using an authorized route through the strategic waterway. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps blamed what it called U.S. aggression and warned that any further military action would be met with an even stronger response. The Strait of Hormuz remains one of the world's most critical shipping lanes, carrying a significant share of global oil and gas exports. Earlier closures of the strait sent energy prices soaring and disrupted international trade. Despite the latest exchange of strikes, Washington says it remains committed to keeping the waterway open and protecting commercial shipping, while diplomatic efforts continue to prevent the fragile ceasefire from collapsing. For now, the region remains on high alert as the world watches to see whether the crisis will deepen or diplomacy can prevail. Israel and Lebanon sign U.S. brokered peace framework. In a significant diplomatic breakthrough, Israel and Lebanon have signed a U.S. breakthrough framework agreement aimed at reducing decades of conflict and building a path toward lasting peace. The agreement was signed in Washington after several days of negotiations led by the United States. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio described the deal as the beginning of a new framework for long-term peace and security between the two neighboring countries. The agreement comes despite continued low-level fighting between Israeli forces and the Iran-backed Hezbollah group in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah was not involved in the negotiations, raising questions over whether the group will comply with the proposed security arrangements. Under the framework, Israel and Lebanon reaffirm each other's right to live in peace and security as sovereign states. Both sides also pledged to end hostile political actions, work toward the release of detainees, and cooperate on the return of human remains. The agreement also calls for the Lebanese armed forces to gradually restore government control across the country, including areas currently influenced by armed groups. A U.S.-led international military coordination team will help oversee implementation. Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun welcomed the agreement, calling it an important first step toward restoring Lebanon's sovereignty. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israeli forces will remain in parts of southern Lebanon until Hezbollah is fully disarmed. He added that the Lebanese army will gradually assume control in select pilot zones. The conflict has taken a heavy humanitarian toll. Lebanese authorities say more than 4,000 people have been killed, thousands more injured, and over 1 million displaced, Since the fighting intensified, Israel says dozens of its soldiers and civilians have also lost their lives. The United States hopes the agreement will help prevent wider regional instability, even as tensions remain high following recent US military strikes on Iran. Whether this framework leads to lasting peace will depend on implementation in the weeks ahead. Venezuela earthquake's death toll surges as global rescue effort intensifies. Rescue teams from around the world are racing against time in Venezuela after two devastating earthquakes killed at least 920 people and injured more than 3,300 according to government officials. The powerful twin earthquakes struck within seconds of each other on Wednesday. The second, measuring magnitude 7.5, is among the strongest to hit Venezuela in more than a country. The northern coastal state of La Guaira has suffered the worst destruction, with homes, hospitals, shopping centers, and other critical infrastructure reduced to rubble. Hundreds of buildings have either collapsed or sustained severe damage. Search and rescue operations continue day and night as emergency crews work to locate survivors trapped beneath the debris. Authorities say at least 172 people are still believed to be missing, raising fears the death toll will continue to climb. Among the heartbreaking stories is that of a mother searching desperately for her two daughters who remain trapped beneath a collapsed shopping center where they worked. Across the country, families are anxiously waiting for news of missing loved ones. Despite the tragedy, there have been moments of hope. Rescue workers successfully pulled several survivors from the rubble, including 3 younger siblings whose dramatic rescue has inspired millions across Venezuela. International assistance is rapidly increasing. Rescue teams from the United States, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Mexico, the Netherlands, and several other countries have been arrived with specialized equipment, search dogs, drones, and emergency medical supplies. The United Nations has called for a coordinated global humanitarian response, warning that Venezuela's already fragile infrastructure has made rescue efforts even more challenging. Officials also warn that more than 200 aftershocks have shaken the region since the initial disaster, complicating rescue operations and increasing risks for survivors and emergency workers. As the search continues, Venezuela faces one of the deadliest natural disasters in its modern history, with thousands of families hoping that more lives can still be saved beneath the ruins.